Hey everybody, it's another week of me, Monica Guzman, coming to you live, Monday through Friday, Pacific Standard Time for this week. And then I will be taking a break because I have some stuff that I need to do and it breaks up the momentum. And it breaks up the momentum. I like to do these in weeks worth spurts. It allows me to fully develop my thought that I'm trying to get across. And so on this Monday, I want to do two things. I want to set up the week and I want to recap what I did the last 2 weeks. Nothing terribly exciting happened over the weekend, right? Given everything that had been happening the previous couple of weeks, I think this one was a little bit tame. So there's not too much to recap as far as the stuff that happened in real life. And I want to remind everybody I'm not a feminist. I didn't grow up in that kind of environment. I never needed it. Nothing that I did growing up, I didn't receive stuff solely because I'm a female. Given, again, my high school was basically 95% Mexican, but our school administrators, even on the district, were American whites. And my senior year of high school, I was very involved in a lot of things. And one of my responsibilities, something that was very normal to me, was off the charts impressive to them. And so I'm pretty sure from then on, it had nothing to do with me being a female or me being Mexican, American, I guess. I earned a lot of stuff. I earned a lot of stuff. IQ, personality, stuff like that. So I'm not a feminist. But I have to talk about something that I'm disturbed by. Very disturbed. Maybe if I didn't have a child and if that child wasn't a boy, maybe it would be different. But as a mom of a son that's going to grow up to be, let me put it this way. When we were going to the gym, when we stopped going, he was probably around almost going on 4, somewhere around there. And already little girls were chasing him around. And I said to myself, oh man, this isn't going to be easy. And that has only continued. When we go to the park, there's girls. It's not going to be easy. He's grown up being admired. At the hospital, as a newborn, the nurses were like, if we could steal him, we would. So this child is not going to have a difficult time with the ladies. Not going to have a difficult time with the ladies. And let me add something on top of that. So 2020 has been the year of health for myself and my kid. And he did have to get a bunch of vaccines updated, not that one, but the standard stuff, right? Standard stuff. And so, because there were so many at the same time, I didn't have the opportunity to say no to one of them. And however, I have said no to the second dose of it. And I have a history of going against doctor's orders when I don't feel right about something. I did it when when the H1N1 flu was going around the United States, America. I was very pregnant, and at that time they were asking pregnant women if we wanted it, and I told them no. I don't get the flu shot annually. My health is pretty good to the point where I don't need it. I haven't suffered severe bouts with the flu, so I'm like, why am I going to get it? And the swine flu stuff, again, I was very pregnant, and I told them no, and I had to sign something. And so there was another situation, and I will get into it, but I want to save that for the female audience. I mean, you guys can know about it if you want to, but I don't want to not scare you away, but I don't want to chase you away by getting too into this stuff when it doesn't necessarily apply to you. But I've gone against doctor's orders before. I advocate for myself. I advocate for my kid. And the doctor gave me, or attempted to give me, a lecture. So there's a vaccine out there that's it's probably the newer one. It's geared toward teenagers, kids, and it's basically a vaccine against degeneracy. And so it's a vaccine against degeneracy. And I told her, I'm going to talk with my kid. I'm going to tell him, if you hang out with undesirable, it's like Cody Bellinger, right? Is this the woman he wants to make his wife? Is when he was doing his thing with this whore, she was with Stanton too, right? Is this the woman that what happened to the other girl? Okay, so obviously this is entering like gossip territory, but I just, if I would have wanted better for Cody, that's all. And so, the situation that Cody's in, is probably, I mean, unless he eventually comes out and says it, right? But from the outside looking in, I'm not sure if this is the woman he wanted as his wife. And, but she's got his kid. We'll see how it turns out for him, for his child. The child is a little bit more important than Cody, because the child's life, they've got everything ahead of him, especially if it's a boy. So this vaccine is basically supposed to protect against degeneracy. And I told her, I'm going to talk to my kid, and I'm going to let him know, what is it if you sleep with dogs, you wake up with fleas? That kind of conversation, right? And especially a kid like this one, where he's going to be able to pick. I want him to pick from the best. IQ, no feminists, no one who wore a pussy hat, right? You guys remember that? I'm going to want resumes. Let me put it that way. I want resumes. Does she help her parents out with household chores? Does she know how to cook? Does she understand that she's a female? Does she want a career? What are her parents' values? Stuff like that. I'm going to want resumes. And we know that males have up until the age of 35 to figure stuff out, as opposed to women where we basically get until about age 25. It's just the way it is. That's nature. It's biology. It's the way that we were created. We haven't evolved. We still sprout wisdom teeth. We don't need them. We haven't evolved. We just have not evolved. And if we do evolve, it takes a really long time. So, nothing really to talk about for the weekend, from the weekend. Last week I talked about, or the last 2 weeks I talked about the cultural differences between MLB and American baseball, and it comes down to who ran each sport, or who runs each sport. The Jewish population runs MLB. They prop up Africans. By extension, they prop up the Dominicans because they're 90% descendant from Africans. Don't be surprised if they stick a couple Haitians in there. I don't know the percentage of African descendancy from them, but don't be surprised if they start sticking Haitians in there too. And then I still don't understand the thing with the Venezuelans. They don't have African descendancy, so I don't understand what it is, unless it's because of the whole American Dream thing. It was a Venezuelan who wrote it. So I covered a lot of stuff, right? I showed you the thought process that I went through to reach this. I wanted to know, is every champion a Hall of Famer? The answer is no. And then I wanted to know what I felt like ending with the guys that have garnered the most championship rings would give me the insight that I was searching for. So you can see Yogi Berra, 10 championships, 2,120 games. All of them weren't as catcher. I believe he had a couple games where he played the infield too. Nonetheless, we all know that the catcher is the position that gets the most worn out, and then it's the pitcher, and then you've got everybody else, right? The backstop. I haven't given Buster Posey his due. It's just, it's hard. I mean, when Mad Bum goes into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, should Buster Posey go in with him if they retire at the same time? Probably. I mean, again, one of my Buster Posey Mad Bum memories comes from Mad Bum's last year as a San Francisco Giant before they went Globo Homo, is when Buster Posey was helping Mad Bum get a pesky batter out, and Buster Posey hit his mitt onto home plate, indicating to Mad Bum, you've got to keep the pitch down. And that is the most important role for the catcher. I don't give a fuck how many home runs the backstop hits. That doesn't define the catcher for me. If you've got some dude back there whose sole purpose is to hit home runs, then he's just another fungible pot, because you're not going to last very long. Unless you're on the Andrew Friedman plan of platooning, then obviously, which is stupid, and I'm totally going to crush those narratives. I'm totally going to dissect them like a frog, like whatever. It's not gonna fly. So I haven't given Buster Posey his due, but it's because of the makeup of the San Francisco Giants, which are now the Globo Homo San Francisco Giants. which is totally disgusting. I mean, you guys saw that picture, right? Like fucking pedos that wear baseball uniforms as a kid. It's so disgusting. Fucking disgusting. What direction is that team going in? And now, what's Mad Bum gonna do when he enters the Hall of Fame? Is he really gonna represent? I mean, when he goes into the Hall, which San Francisco team are people gonna remember? Are they gonna remember the Bruce Bochy San Francisco Giants, or are they going to remember the Farhan Zaidi, Gabe Kapler, Global Homo Giants? It's so fucking disgusting. They all look like they need to be in jail for molesting children. So fucking disgusting. Oh, it's disgusting. Okay. So back to the cross-check test. And I call it the cross-check test because I literally cross-checked a bunch of stuff to say, okay, that's why this guy was inducted. And Yogi Berra got in on the second ballot. The greatest catcher ever got in on the second ballot. Joe DiMaggio. I don't know if I can sing some of these songs out loud, but Joe DiMaggio, right? Third ballot. Obviously Babe Ruth got in on the first, and then Mickey Mantle got in on the first. My issue with Mickey Mantle is his off-field stuff. He just had no restraint. And, I mean, how much of his off-field antics played into his on-field stuff? Like, could he have ended with a batting average above 300 if he had focused a little bit more? I mean, 298, okay, but, I mean, 536 home runs, 2,415 hits, 1,509 ribbies. Look, he struck out 1,710 times. So I give Mickey Mantle for sure his due. The greatest example of the unwritten rules based on American culture as opposed to African culture, which is what MLB wants. And so I took you through everything that I cross-checked. Championships, titles, top 20, what ballot did they get in to the Hall of Fame on? I believe it's extremely comprehensive. Any deviation from this is just an MLB Marxist writer saying, I don't give a shit. You know, they're Marxists. They're going to vote in. They're cheaters. They're Africans. They're narratives, stuff like that, right? And so that's why, again, this ballot for 2022 is it's going to be extremely telling of the direction of MLB going forward. And I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be easy. This isn't about competing against MLB. It's not like, what was that? The XFL, that league that they put together before the pandemic hit. So they had to shut down because of the pandemic. This isn't that. We're not going to go around begging these so-called sports pundits to cover us. No, it's not even close. It's not going to be that at all. This isn't about competing with MLB. This is about bringing American baseball back to American soil. It's about keeping the memories of Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Honus Wagner, Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, Cy Young alive. I would love to be able to celebrate Randy Johnson, Curt Schilling, Madison Bumgarner, Zach Greinke, David John LeMahieu too, because those guys would have been able to compete against Ty Cobb, would have been able to figure stuff out against Christy Mathewson, it would have been outstanding battles if we could get all these men together to play against each other. It would be amazing, amazing American baseball. And so, again, I went through a lot of stuff over the last 2 weeks. Cool stuff, super cool stuff. I think I still love baseball. It's that whole thing about, Tom Brady said it, right? Football was his first love, so he went into the NFL as a career. In my case, I'm not a cheerleader. This isn't me being a cheerleader. I just loved watching it. I loved watching men compete. It's not jock worship. Again, Kirk Gibson wasn't a jock, right? He was a man, like grunt man, right? I haven't been in on MLB, but the few times that I've heard him broadcast, he just drops all the wisdom. Like, what a great man. And then obviously the late Tommy Lasorda, then Scully. Just a different time, right? And it is what it is. So I believe that wraps up what I did for the last 2 weeks, the cross-check test. When the ballots come out, I'll start putting this together, and then I will share it. Okay, so let's go here. So what am I doing this week? This, again, you're going to see this chart a lot this week. It shows an important timeline for America. Again, a lot of men died during the Civil War too. But I'm not discounting the importance of the lives of those men. Ty Cobb's dad served for Georgia, right? Ty Cobb's dad served in the Civil War. A lot of the baseball greats, their dads served in the Civil War. And so it shows you the difference that these men who served in the Civil War were able to birth alphas. Whereas, because World War I killed off so many young American males, they didn't have a chance to pass on their genes, and that is absolutely tragic. And then World War II just ended it. Without World War I, there is no Susan B. Anthony. Without World War I and World War II, there is no civil rights movement. Without World War II, there probably is no baseball integration. So did they integrate? No, because if they needed bodies to play American baseball, they would have brought everybody over, right? They started with Jackie Robinson. So I don't think it was a lack of bodies for American baseball. It was the Jewish effort to do their thing, right? And then obviously you get the sexual revolution of the 1960s. You've got those 2 court cases that I'm not sure the Supreme Court should have even been involved in. We can change a lot of stuff for America just by looking at the stuff that the Supreme Court has ruled on 1960 and on. Should the Supreme Court had even been involved in that, given that we know the makeup, the agenda for the country 1960 on, right? So you've got these 2 court cases, one that was brought by an atheist, the other was brought forth by a Jew. One removed Bible study from public schools, and the other one removed school prayer. So we can affect a lot of change on that stuff. It's like the lady on the subway that was tearing down the those advertisements. again, difference between the right and the left, right? The right, we don't engage in that kind of behavior, whereas the left does, but the left does it because they know they're going to get away with it. If the right starts toppling George Floyd statues, we know that we're going to end up in jail. And we're going to end up in jail the way the colonists ended up in jail before 1776, like no due process, no trial by jury. There's going to be excessive fines, stuff like that, right? We know this. So that's why we need to figure this stuff out. So I'm going to be drawing a lot of information from my favorite American history textbook, and then the world history textbook that I recommend for the time being. It's a 4th edition that was published let's see, 2004. I've actually been looking, so when I was in college, I took more American history. That would have been the best opportunity for me to take world history, but I didn't, and I've been trying to find the syllabus for some of those courses. There's some other books that I want to get a hold of, but I can't find that information online. So I have to attempt to get a hold of my university and get that information from them. But once I find the information for the world history textbook that was used when I was in college, it might be this one. It's just the picture looks different, and it was paperback in 2 volumes. It might be this one, because this version that I've got up here is from 2004. So maybe it could be that one. I'm not sure. As far as what I found available for purchase, this was the one. So, okay. So the following stuff that I'm going to talk about, you guys are just going to have to accept it as my opinion, my observation, and my judgment. So Trump was elected president through a coalition, right? There were your meme lords. There was 4chan, right? There was WikiLeaks. There was Jared. There was, and then everybody kind of grabbed onto that and worked off of that, right? They dispersed the memes. Within, I guess at that time, is this before Gamergate or as Gamergate happened? So obviously your video gaming communities got involved. It seems like you guys are politically agnostic, if I understood correctly. And then you've got your in real life people, your Richard Spencers, your Stefan Molyneux kind of falls into the internet. Paul Joseph Watson is internet. I remember when Cassandra Fairbanks was stopping traffic on Hollywood and Vine. So I categorize her as in real life. And then obviously you had Trump rallies garnering 40,000 people at a time, thousands, in the thousands, right? So you can't tell me that Trump was solely voted by the internet or elected by the internet. I don't buy that. Okay. So I remember when the Gamergate stuff was flying around. I don't know a lot about it. I am not involved in the video gaming community at all. I don't subscribe to online communities. So it seems like there's some of you that just wanted to crawl into a corner of the internet and do your thing. Now, these are all males, right? But you're not teenagers. You guys are in your 20s, 30s, right? Okay. I remember when the incel stuff, insult was flying around too. And then again, that's not something I got heavily involved in. I don't live on the internet. I live in real life. I have a family. I have everything that comes with that. My kid, my dog, my domestic duties and all that stuff, right? So I like Twitter a lot. That's where I go to find out what's going on. Does that make Twitter the new public square? I still believe that it does not. It doesn't. But I do go to Twitter. Again, that's how I found out that Tommy Lasorda passed away. It's how a lot of us find stuff out before it's on the news on television, right? Twitter is the breaking news. And even when it's not the breaking news, it makes the news. Like when I catch stuff on the Spanish channels, the gossip shows, I mean, everyone goes to their subject's Twitter account or Instagram, right? It's the whole, oh, such and such tweeted this, such and such took a picture and Instagrammed it. So the gossip shows are largely based on what celebrities are doing on social media, which is interesting. And even like Vicente Fernandez, you know, I guess it was trending the other day that he had passed away and people were freaking out. And his son had to post a video saying, Dad's not dead yet. Does the internet have its merits? Absolutely. Does it deserve some credit? Absolutely. But at the same time, the internet is not real life. It's not real life. It's never going to be real life. Scott Presler is showing us that. So Scott Presler is doing an outstanding job registering voters in real life. He's meeting people. He's got a version of the Benjamin Franklin model going on. He's helping people. If these people at his presentations stick together, they're forming their own Benjamin Franklin groups. And that is a wonderful thing. On top of that, because the groups are so small, it's going to be easy for them to sniff out the informants. Because hopefully they get to know their neighbors. And I mean, somebody who just moved into the neighborhood, it's your right to find out who they are. You want to keep your block, your immediate area safe, right? And so there's ways to sniff out the FBI informants. Maybe that should be something that later on we help people with. So I don't know. Again, beyond Stefan Molyneux, I didn't know a lot of the other stuff happening on the internet with people who probably voted for Trump. And then when I talk about nerds, I was solely referring to MLB nerds. I didn't realize the amount of nerds that also reside on the right, starting with Nick Fuentes. If Nick Fuentes had attended my high school when I was there, Nick Fuentes would have been beat up. If he managed to calm down some of the guys, he would have spent his high school years bullied. From my understanding, Nick Fuentes' group got themselves into trouble with the Proud Boys. I don't know what you guys said to set those guys off, but obviously it's a little bit stupid. If all of you look like Nick Fuentes in physical attributes, I don't know what you guys were thinking. There's no reason to set off a bully. There's no reason to do it. So it seems like you guys think that in 10 years you will rule the world through the internet. You're putting together a website. Now, something that's extremely disturbing for me is, so I know that I have to protect my son against the pedo left, right? The global homo pedo online San Francisco left. I know that those degenerates are targeting kids like my son to go out there and rally for them, to go out there and decide one weird day that they're trans or that they are homosexual, right? So I know I have to protect my kid against the global homo pedo degenerate San Francisco left. Okay. So now I realize that I have to protect my kid against the digital nerd right, or those of you grifting off of the right. Again, my kid is going to succeed in real life, and I'm not going to watch again. I'm not going to bring this up again. This was something that I did because I wanted to watch Ramsey Paul and Scott Greer discuss some issues. Again, someone who wants to give an informed opinion, you need to see all sides of something. You need to see beyond your own opinion, right? Beyond your own echo chamber. You've got to go beyond it, right? And I've done that. Again, I keep giving Cowherd his shout outs. I didn't realize Cowherd's a Marxist. I knew that he wasn't very well liked, but I assumed it was just nerds that didn't like him. And I mean, I was like, well, I don't care about the opinions of nerds. Because I stopped watching the baseball hating network, I wanted to find something to fill the void, and I started watching Cowherd because it's 3 hours. So it feels, again, I like longevity, consistency. I'm not sure what the right phrasing is in this context, but it's 3 hours. It's a good chunk of time. It's like something that's super annoying, at least on Apple devices. I don't know about Apple TV because I have to update my device. But what is it with having to press play on every episode in a series? Is like, am I just not finding the feature that lets me play a season continuously? It's so fucking annoying. I don't want the interruption. I wanted to keep going, right? And so even though I own a bunch of stuff, I end up watching on streaming because I don't have to experience the interruption when I'm in the zone with whatever I'm doing. I don't need the interruption. So Cowherd goes on for 3 hours. I was like, I don't have to worry about changing the channel. And but again, Cowherd's a total Marxist along the lines of like Joe Buck. And I watched Tom Brady play. I mean, it's Tom Brady, man. Like, you're not gonna miss that. The ratings, I think Sports Media Watch will have the ratings tomorrow. I'm sure he did well. It's LA, large market. It's Tom Brady. I mean, come on, right? Like, so I don't want to get too into that, but I'm sure no one's more upset about the game than Tom Brady is. So I don't criticize Tom Brady's as an NFL player. I think he's walking, talking. That's what a Hall of Famer looks like. Other sports trying to figure out their Hall of Fame class, that's what it looks like in 2021. It's Tom Brady. Okay. So I jump off, go in this direction. So I was talking about what I saw on Friday night So let me just backtrack. I'm sorry if I missed something important that I was going to say, but obviously it wasn't that important, right? So there's been a cat running around disturbing, or how do you even say it? There's some words that I don't know how to say in English, and I know how to say them in Spanish. Alborotando. It's not disturbing. Just causing the dogs to get upset, right? And it's a cat, and then we get possums. Oh, they're so cute, but and what else do we get? We get squirrels. That's a lot of fun. And then we get, the birds aren't singing today, but over the weekend, a lot of birds singing, which is weird for September, right? Given that the weather's changing, but lots of birds singing over the weekend too. So we get our share of nature in the area, which is fun. Okay. So, okay. So I know I have to protect my kid against the global homo, pedo, left, degenerate San Francisco. I know I have to protect my kid against that. And now I have to protect my kid against digital nerds that seem to identify with the right. It's very disturbing to see you guys, how freely you participate in the consumption of drugs and then alcohol. It's very disturbing because you know that the white population is dwindling, right? And I knew obviously you guys aren't getting girls pregnant, but I didn't realize how severe the issue is. I'm not going to criticize, is it Ethan? He seems like a great guy, but not so great because he gambles and he consumes drugs, and he knows that he could stand to lose a couple pounds, right? But he seems like a very nice guy. But it's very disturbing that, and this isn't just what I saw on Friday night. It's beyond that. Like, my kid likes Legos. It's very weird to see 35-year-old guys so into Legos too. And they're obviously childless. If you want to continue being a child, you have kids and then you participate in those activities with them. So not only is there women or girls in women's bodies, we have boys in men's bodies too. And I'm disturbed because I just saw it on Friday. I'm going to get over it, but I want to share it as an observation, as something that we all need. Well, I don't need to work on it. I'm protecting my kid. You guys need to figure out your thing, right? So it's not shocking anymore why the American white population is dwindling. Because even if you guys find your spouse, you've already got damaged. You've already damaged your sperm's DNA. So basically what happens is, so why are cases of Down syndrome increasing? Why are cases of childhood cancer increasing? It's because there's damaged eggs and sperm, right? The combination of the two. And I'm going to talk about this more in depth later on. I'm just kind of giving the overview. That's not what I will be focusing on this week. I might bring it in, but it will not be the focus. And again, this is my observation, my opinion, my judgment. I get to have it. If it insults anybody, I'm not even going to tell you to grow a thicker skin. I'm just going to say, obviously, two different worlds, right? And it is what it is. Obviously, I don't believe in rehabilitation, I don't think it works. So once a male damages his sperm's DNA, you can't fix that. You can't put Band-Aids on those little suckers, right? That's damaged sperm, which leads to children that MLB loves. MLB loves their cancer children. Loves. You guys are MLB's target audience. They want you guys. They want you drug consuming, alcohol consuming, gluttonous, digital nerds. They want you guys. Because if you do have children, you're more likely to have children that develop childhood cancer and other childhood diseases and illnesses like diabetes, right? I'm going to talk more about those things during the week because I still will be focusing on baseball. So this week I'm focused on American history. We've got to talk a little bit more about helping people connect that the reason why the colonists fought for their independence is because the government was the enemy. And even though England is right over there, at one point, England ruled the colonists. And because England was in debt, they raised the taxes on the colonists. And the colonists said, no way. So because England was in this pissing contest with France, they found themselves in debt, but so did France. And that's why you had the French Revolution too, right? And so lots of stuff happened during this period of like 1760 through 1780. Lots of stuff happened, right? And you're obviously not learning it in school. You're learning other stuff. And so my hope is that these streams reach people interested in understanding American history from first document sources. And then hopefully you'll be curious enough to keep researching it on your own, because that's what needs to happen, right? This is about teaching people to fish, not giving people fish, right? We've got to find the people who want to learn how to fish. Obviously, we help those that can't learn how to fish on their own. We help them, but we also can't take away our attention from the people that want to learn to fish. They need our attention just as much. We can't continue with this disbalance that we've got going on right now. So again, I'm just disturbed because now I realize I have to protect my kid against the global homo degenerate pedo San Francisco left wing. And I need to protect my kid against degenerate digital nerds that seem to identify with the right. So I watched several hours. I got to hear Baked Alaska. And then Anomaly came on. And then I was just pooped out. So I needed to go to sleep at that point. And that's your guys' community. I respect that. But Trump shows us that the internet isn't real life. The internet complements real life. It seems like you guys think you're going to rule the world through the internet in 10 years. So now it makes sense to me why you guys want big tech to continue. You don't want censorship, but you want big tech to continue. I mean, it's because you can't compete in real life. And it sucks that you guys were dealt those cards. I don't know, I mean, how much of it do your parents play a role in you becoming digital nerds? Like, you know, I have no idea how I would even find that kind of information. Is there statistics on that already? And obviously, if there are, they're going to call you guys terrorists and extremists. So it's not going to be usable data that gives me the information that I'm interested in. I mean, how much is it? Did your parents not hug you enough? Like, were you bullied in school? How much was it as a result of your drug consumption and your alcohol consumption? Because if I see someone walking down the street and they're obese, it's a safe assumption that they're low IQ. They have little to no self-restraint when it comes to food. My IQ is high. It's not that high, but it's there. I can tell you that my doctor, when I speak with my doctor, she's surprised. So I went, and then I had a follow-up 2 weeks later, and I had already lost 5 pounds. And then from there, I've averaged a loss of 1 pound a week. And this is me, right? This is me understanding that I have responsibilities and doing something about it. I know that the medical community is used to people that they tell them and they tell them and they medicate them and they tell them again that they need to lose weight. And there are a lot of people that will never take their health into their own hands fully and do what they need to do to get better. That's why our healthcare industry is dying, because people are in such bad health conditions, right? My dad is a great man on several fronts, and one of them is, I want to share this, but I have to respect, right? There has to be a boundary, right? And I'm just going to tell you that my dad also figured it out on his own. He figured it out on his own. And so let me just leave it at that. And so, I'm disturbed. I'm going to get over it. But so my kid caught a glimpse of what I was watching on Friday night, and I didn't say anything. In the morning, I talked with him and I told him, whatever you saw, I don't want that for you. I don't want you to grow up to be like that. It starts with no drugs. I prefer that he doesn't consume alcohol. I definitely don't want him to grow up to be a nerd. I definitely don't want him to grow up to be a loser. I definitely don't want him to grow up to be a digital nerd loser. And so if I ever get criticized by you guys, because I'm not doing this out of malice, if anything, I hope this helps you get better. But you guys need to remember that if you've been consuming drugs, your sperm's DNA is damaged, and you have to be really careful if you decide to have kids after all. Those kids may not be the healthiest. Okay, so I lost my thought. So I know what I don't want for my kid. I don't want that for my kid. My kid, it's very interesting to watch him grow up and develop and become his own person. The culture that he's adopting, it's super interesting because it's not a culture that's very, it was more prominent when I was growing up, right? You guys remember like the OC, that stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, right on, because it's in real life culture, and it's a culture that allows him to be physically active. So I was the one who encouraged him to learn how to ride a bike. And when he figured it out, I cried. He didn't see me, because he took off, and I'm watching him and I'm like, wow. And then, so he learned on the kid's bike, and then once he got to the grown-up's bike, I wanted to vomit because I watched my child get on an adult bike, and I'm like, oh my goodness, if he falls off that thing, he's gonna break something. And to watch him take off on the adult bike, I wanted to vomit, but I wanted to cry at the same time. It was it's these milestones, right? And it's, at least I do, I feel all of them. It's but it is what it is, right? But okay. And again, I'm not coming at you guys from a place of malice, but I'm disturbed by what I saw, and a lot more stuff makes sense. So I'm doing this online because I'm sharing, but it's not going to be, the internet will always complement the rest of the stuff. The internet complements it. It's not it. The stuff that I'm working on, it's in real life stuff. And again, I want to reiterate, it's not from a place of malice. I just, wow. Okay, so let's dive into, I'm trying not to go super, super long. Let me see if I can start wrapping this up in the next 10 minutes. I might just carry it over until tomorrow. Let's just do that. So I'm going to read to you guys tomorrow something from the World History book. I've already read it to you guys, but I'm going to read it again. And then I'm going to jump into the American Pageant, 9th edition, to talk about American history. And I'm going to remind you that the great Cap Anson, his family was around. So his family descends from the English Navy. His family had a member who was among the first in the English Navy. So that tells you the greatness of Cap Anson's lineage. His family was split by the Revolutionary War. There was one member who went all in with England, and then the other member who went all in with the colonists, and it caused a rift within the family. But by the time his dad's generation rolled around, they started to make amends. So I guess part of the Cap Anson family was still in England. The father traveled over there to speak with them, and there was some sort of amends made. So this Civil War stuff, Revolutionary War stuff was real. It was in real life. So let's discuss it. Let's talk about it again. Let's try to reach more people and see how much of the Marxism can be undone, because I'm assuming that's what you guys are, it's not what you guys are trying to do. You guys are trying to influence and create more digital nerds. I'm hoping to help people overcome their Marxist tendencies. And so, because I know the bell curve, right? The bell curve does this. And so I know there are people who were never Marxist, right? And then there were people who were leaning Marxist and then said, nah. And then as the further up you go, you get to the middle where you've got people on the fence. They could go either way. And then once you descend, these are your American Marxists. These are your FBI white guys who are ready to jail you. They're ready to jail their own. How tragic is that? So I know that once I climb up the bell curve and once I hit the other side, that these people are nearly impossible to undo their Marxism. Like, is Joe Buck ever going to stop being a Marxist? I don't know. I think it depends on his wife, right? Is she Marxist too? Same thing with Cowherd. Like, is Cowherd ever going to stop being a Marxist? Probably not, because it looks like his business model is now built on Marxism. So I don't think he's going to go against his money anymore. But okay. And it's fine. I won't bring this into it. So I'm going to end up doing some of the stuff I plan to do today. I'm going to do it tomorrow instead. I'll start wrapping up now. So I personally recommend acquiring these American history textbooks. I'm going to show you that you can build a curriculum off of them, especially on the American pageant. You know, when you're teaching your kids English, right? Like, honestly, my English classes never improved my writing skills. I had to really do that on my own. And then also receiving feedback from professionals. Like, oh, should I confess this? No, I'm not going to confess it, because that's too much of a thing to confess. But you can build a curriculum off of American history for your kids that you should be homeschooling. You've got to get them out of these public schools. I mean, these public schools are just turning, public schools have been daycare for a long time, right? Now they're turning into feral daycare centers, and you don't want your children in that environment. And it's across the board, right? It's across the board. Just some groups have more feralness in them than others, but you can find feral across the board, right? It's everybody. Every group, no matter how you divide it, has its bottom 1%. Every group. It's not, no one's immune to it. No one's special enough to get away from it. And so we'll see how everything turns out, right? We just have to wait it out. I don't know how to, we just have to wait it out. So if you want to join me tomorrow to watch me, listen to me discuss some of the stuff that I was going to get to today, tomorrow as close to 8 a.m. as possible. It's Monday. Doesn't matter. If you're not in the rat race, you know that it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. Every day you work toward your toward remaining out of the rat race, right? Remaining out of the rat race. There's tons of good books that are worth out there reading. Kiyosaki, Richard, I can't remember your name. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? I recommend that's a good read. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys... I want you guys to get off of the video games. My hair got tangled on my thing. I want you guys to get off of the video games. I really do. You guys need to get off the video games. You guys need to get off the drugs, for sure. Maybe you guys need some reading recommendations to take up your time. Let's start a digital book club. Let's do something like that instead. I thought about that too. But I thought I was going to gear it more toward athletes before I realized what's happening in the digital world that leans to the right, toward the right. We need to figure this out, you guys. We cannot have white young men damaging their sperm. We can't have it. You guys need to have children. They need to be healthy children. Let's do that. And I didn't get to it today, but I'm going to talk about the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the OnlyFans girls, right? I'll do that tomorrow. Get to this stuff. Talk about the other side of the coin tomorrow. Have a wonderful Monday. The weather's changing. You're gonna see me wear this top a lot. I love it. I found it. I bought it in various sizes because I have my when I want to be comfy, and then my when I go out size. Hang on. Stuff like that. So you're gonna see me wearing this a lot, especially when it gets colder. And my fingers are cold. I love this. What is it? Athleisure. I love it. I love it. Okay. Have a wonderful Monday. If you have time, read a book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a good start. Trump's books are a good start. Let's get you off of the video games, off of the drugs. We've got to get you in real life, off of the internet. Should complement your life, not be your life. And let's kind of go from there. So have a wonderful Monday. See you back here tomorrow as close to 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as possible. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching.